Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's another edition of Let's Talk Buffs. Sitting here with Carter Dillon. This is a big week. This is a really big week. We recorded last week. We kind of gave our recap of the UCF game, where it felt like CU's most dominant win in the Prime era, in my opinion. And then they get their bye. So did our opponent, Kansas State. But we do get to play a ranked opponent, number 18, if I'm not mistaken, there in Kansas State. So huge week. If the Buffs come out on top on this one, I feel like they're almost undeniably ranked, Carter. So it's an exciting pod, and I'm happy to get into it. But how are you doing today, man?
Yeah, I'm good. We touched on it last week about they're a lock to be ranked if they beat K-State. This is their first ranked game of the year. Nebraska was ranked after they beat them, but this is their first going into it ranked opponent that they're going to play, and it's going to be a late night in Boulder. Hope you guys take a nap Saturday because 8:15 start time's a rough one, but we'll be ready to roll for post game too. But huge game.
Yeah, I was listening to Coach Prime talk today, and he was saying that he's going to take a nap before the game. This game kickoff's way too late. He said that he's usually tucking himself in right when this game starts. My man might not get home until 1, bro. It's a crazy one. Crazy time. I don't know who is scheduling this. I thought we got out of this when we got out of the Pac-12. So I don't know. It's crazy. But let's first start off with news. I think really big news. Shiloh Sanders is back. He probably takes Stoutmeier's spot there at the safety. I think even Coach Prime addressed that, and it just makes the most sense for how much shit Shiloh gets in the media and everything like that. I think he's a better football player than people give him credit. I don't think he's like the best, greatest NFL talent in the world, but I do think he's a really good college safety, and I think he's really going to help the Buffs this next week. Let me know what difference does this make for the Buffs having Shiloh back?
Yeah, I think this is a big Shiloh week just because of K-State style. They love to run the ball, and they are not – if you can turn this K-State team over, you're going to have a good chance to win the game. And Shiloh stripping the ball, punching the ball, delivering big hits, he adds to that ability to take the ball away from K-State. So I think that's huge to have Shiloh back. Obviously, one of the biggest leaders on this team as well. So just a great to have him back for the first ranked game.
Yep, no, absolutely. And it's crazy. This Buffs run defense has been so good. I think Shiloh only helps that too. Even like Shiloh is really good at playing that last line of defense guy. He always brings that guy down. So it's a big addition. Carter, I know you wanted to touch on some of the recruits. This was a huge recruiting. Or this will be a huge recruiting weekend, and then a lot happened over this bye as well. Let us know what was going on there.
Yeah, so bye weeks in college football, usually your position coaches will go out and travel to players' homes and watch a game or meet with them in person. And that happened a lot over our bye. The big one that we knew about last week was Phil Lodeholt going down and meeting with Carday Smith. But then one that came out most recently was Pat Shurmur going down to visit with Alabama 5-star commit Keelan Russell. So they are adding a quarterback in the 2025 class to their radar alongside Julian Lewis, which I think this is good. I think the stalemate with Juju so far, this adds pressure to that. If Juju wants to be a Buff, he'll have to make his decision quickly because they're not afraid to go out and look at other guys. But Keelan flipped from SMU to Alabama in June, and they're trying to get him on an official visit. So that's a big one. Do you have anything on Keelan, or do you want me to go to the next guy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's just interesting. So I'm not saying that he's going to be a Buff or anything like that. I'm definitely not just I'm not giving my crystal ball. Joey Richards' crystal ball is not coming out today. But I do have to say, I find it interesting that it was the offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur, that went down there. I think that's notable. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it, but I don't think they're just going to waste their offensive coordinator's time to just go cold call a kid, right? Like, I think there at least has to be some mutual interest for them to go send him out there, go waste his time when he could be scheming up against Kansas State, right? But instead, he's out there in Dallas recruiting this 5-star quarterback. it's notable. I don't, like I said earlier, I'm not saying he is going to be a buff, but there does at least have to be some mutual interest there. I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up taking a visit here, just reading the tea leaves.
Yeah, and there had to have been some stuff prior to this if it's not like this happened last week and Pat Shurmur decided he's just going to go down there and they're already working on a visit. So there's got to be something there. So just another guy, as this team picks up momentum winning games, you got to keep watching their recruiting momentum as well because it's only going to add to it. But another huge player to look out for would be 5-star Ohio State commit corner Naeem Offord. This is the really interesting one because we wouldn't really have heard anything about this if Naeem's dad did not go on a recruiting podcast and say, if Naeem was to take another visit, it would be to Boulder. So it seems like CU has started to pitch to him that he could be the next Travis Hunter, and no other school has that ability. If you're a high school kid and you are told you could be the next Travis Hunter, why would you not want to go to that school? So this team is just picking up unbelievable momentum. They're on damn near every list I see. If a college kid is thinking about transferring or taking a visit, it seems like CU is starting to be one of those staples on lists. So this is just huge. And we know K-State's going to be a big recruiting weekend, as is Cincinnati. So we'll know more about those lists later, but just big time stuff, Joey.
Yeah, it is huge. It was interesting. Like this bye week, they weren't just going for small fish. They were going after all big time talent. They're sending their guys everywhere. I also saw, I know you maybe have notes on this too, but why not just throw it out there that I think Coach Hart went to IMG, and they were having conversation with 2 kids down there. I mean, they were going big time. So do you have the notes on those guys by chance?
I know that I think it was a linebacker and an edge.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on the 2 big ones, but I mean, they're not afraid to go to these big players anymore. And that's a huge difference. Like Alabama, it's just Alabama, their 2025 class CU is like, I don't care. Yeah, I'm going to hit this guy up. Like, it feels so good in this recruiting cycle.
Yeah, especially like Carter and I are actually from Colorado. We watched the dark ages of this team. I never thought in a million years we'd be here right now. So, yay, shout out to Coach Prime, shout out to the Buffs right now. I love it. But let's get into the game preview against Kansas State. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, this is massive, man. Huge game here. I have a bunch of notes from their offense, and I kind of want to talk our offense versus their defense. But first, Carter, what did you see in their offense that worries you the most?
Yeah, so another week, another versatile rushing quarterback the Buffs are going to have to face. Avery Johnson, very young quarterback, and that shows. But he's not even the biggest threat, and their favorite guy to show off on this offense, it's DJ Giddens. That guy is legit. DJ Giddens, I know you put out a tweet about DJ. He is 8th in the country in yards per carry so far this season, averaging 7.28 yards. So another week goes by, another running the ball team. I think it's huge.
He's nice.
He is nice. He is a pro. You said it best. He's a pro. If our defense can stop the run, they're going to be in good shape. I think this is a big Robert Livingston game. If you remember past games where they had a rushing quarterback, we like to play a lot of man, and that really torched us. So I think versus a young quarterback, I would like to see Robert Livingston take some of his NFL ties and disguise some stuff and mix some stuff around. They're going to have to play zone if they want to prevent Avery from scrambling. If they want to play man, they might have to spy Avery because he is a legit threat to run the ball. So I think it's a huge Robert Livingston game and a huge just being able to do your responsibility on the defense for the Buffs this week.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. They're averaging 7 yards a carry, man. And here's the thing about their offense. It all rotates around DJ Giddens. That's the main thing I came away with in this is like their passing game also then rotates around DJ Giddens. Their offense is going to go as their run game allows them. And like you said, Carter, he is a pro. DJ Giddens is awesome. He's tall, lengthier, running back, up and down type style, but very one cut, go, hit the hole. He's plenty slippery, a lot more slippery than you'd expect, especially once he gets to that second level where he can just kind of long stride out and get in the open field. He's dangerous. He's the best runner the Buffs have played up into this point. He's better than RJ Harvey. And it definitely, in my opinion, and I think DJ Giddens is probably going to be like maybe a top 150 pick this next year, something like that, in what looks like a loaded running back class. So DJ Giddens is the real deal. I don't know. It's big for the defensive line too, in the front seven. Like, you're going to see a lot of North Dakota State similarities with this, maybe just a better version of North Dakota State. And it makes sense because their coaches have a lot of ties to North Dakota State. So very similar philosophies. We'll get into that on defense. Same thing over there. I think the biggest thing for them, just like when we were complaining in the North Dakota State game, the reason that game was so close is because they can never get them in position or in any bad position whatsoever. It felt like North Dakota State was never in a third and distance at all. It was 3rd and 2. 3rd and 3, 3rd and 1. And that's the area where the Buffs we need to get like a big time stop on 1st or 2nd to force them into an unfavorable spot on 3rd. If you just let this team get 3, 4, 5 yards a pop on the ground, it's going to be a long day for your defense. They're going to be out on the field a ton like they were in the North Dakota State game. So that's the biggest take I had watching their offense, and just trying to think of how I would stop it. It's just getting those stops, or making big stops in certain times. A TFL against this team would be massive. They're the type of offense where a TFL could ruin the entire drive. Just one. Because if you can force Avery to just sit back there in the pocket and have to make a big boy throw, I'm not sure he could do it. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just said, their staff knows he's a young quarterback and he does have a talented arm, but they don't like to put him in situations where he has to make a play unless it's with his legs. So one TFL will do it. He leads all Power 4 quarterbacks in yards per carry. This is a team that they want to get up early on you, and they just don't want you to have the ball the rest of the game. I mean, they are not built to come from behind. They are built to, maybe their defense gets a turnover, maybe Shador throws a pick. That's what they want, and they want to just pound the rock and get up on you and never let you get the ball back enough to get back into the game. And we'll talk about that more when we talk about the defense, because their CU offense has been prone to slow starts, and that's going to be one of the bigger points. But they're not built to come from behind. They're built to maintain leads.
Yep, absolutely. And I don't want it to sound like Avery Johnson is just not a good football player. That's not what I mean at all. And I know that's not what Carter means, because we've had discussions about Avery Johnson. He's just not a pocket type quarterback yet. That's just not what he is yet. Now, when they start moving him around, like they'll do a lot of boots and stuff like that. Some of the throws where I was like, wow, that was a really good throw. His most impressive throws are always on the move to me. Rarely am I sitting there like, that was a big time throw from the pocket. No, it's all scrambling out. He's making plays with his feet, making people miss, doing all of that different type of stuff, and then also giving them the option to just pull it and take it to the edge because he's just that fast. Different styled quarterback than who we played last, who was also a really good runner. It's just this one, he might not pound the ball for 5 yards every time, but he could pull away for 80 on a run. Avery Johnson is that athletic. The other note I have here is, and CU fans might tear me up over this because there's a lot of love for the kid. It's just him versus who the other guy is, and Kansas State fans might even tear me up through this. But when Dylan Edwards is in the game, honestly, this is a good thing for CU's defense. And people might tear me up for it. I don't care, though. It's true, because that's just how good Giddens is. And if they are moving more into this is a clean split instead of kind of how it's been, where it's been like 80% Giddens, 20%, whatever. If they come into this game and they're like, this is the Dylan Edwards revenge game, and that means that we're playing him a substantially amount more, which also means we're taking the best player off of Kansas State. This is good news. I'm sorry. Shout out to Dylan Edwards. He's an awesome football player. He's just not DJ Giddens right now. So yeah, that'd be the only thing, because I see a lot of people hyping it up to be the revenge game. He could have a really good game. It's just DJ Giddens is a baller. Yeah. Any other notes there on the offense? I have a few more.
Yeah, I got some just to piggyback off of you a little bit, but we love Dylan. I think we both know how much Dylan did for this program in 1 year. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns and probably the biggest win last year to start off the Coach Primary versus TCU. They like to use Dylan in wheel routes and out of the backfield. We know Dylan has potential to break off a 80-yard play like nothing. So Dylan's talented. But you're exactly right. The main problem is DJ Giddens. And I want to touch on your thing about how Avery looks best when he's rolling out. He looks worse when he is in the pocket. I watched the BYU game. There was a play where he had a tight end there in the red zone. They're probably at the 7-yard line, just on a quick little angle route. And then he had the X receiver on a drag underneath it. He looks at his drag, doesn't like it. The next read, which would be the angle route, is wide open for a touchdown. It is wide open. Instead, Avery tucks it, rolls out left, tries to scramble, then forces it back to the tight end. I think it ended up being an incompletion. But just stuff like that, you can tell he's a young quarterback, and CU really needs to exploit those weaknesses in his game.
Yeah, no, you're 1,000% right. And to add on to their passing game, Carter, did you come really impressed with any one wide receiver? I think they have capable guys that are cool. I think CU's cornerbacks are really good. I think Preston's really good. I think Travis is really good. I even think DJ is good. Like, I don't know if any of these guys really freak me out. It felt like the big plays I watched were on picks and different stuff like this. I didn't see any one wide receiver just getting open at will at any point while I was watching Kansas State's offense.
Yeah, I think they have guys that they can trust. They have guys that are willing blockers if they need them to. Just guys that they're not going to make a splash play, but they're well coached enough that they're not going to make any glaring mistakes. But I think you're exactly right. I don't think Travis and DJ and Preston and any of the secondary is going to have their hands full at all like they have in past weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I that totally makes sense. And the last point I only have here is this offense doesn't make a ton of mistakes, especially when they're playing the style of football they want to play. Where they do make mistakes is what we mentioned earlier, and you said it, is when he's dropping back and he's actually having to make and go through progressions. That's the type of throws that and where they make the most mistakes. If they're just able to run the ball, play action boot, RPO you, do that type of stuff, they're in their bag. That's where they want to be, and that's where they're really good. And they don't kill themselves at all. Like, this isn't a big penalized team either. You rarely see them pushed back on holdings and things like this. CU is a lot more penalized than this Kansas State team is. So yeah, that's something. It just CU is able to get themselves out of that hole while Kansas State's really not.
I got one more thing.
Yeah, let me know.
One little takeaway. This is, if I had to wrap this thing up and say one takeaway for how we're going to find success, 2 big words in my mind for Robert Livingston. Play zone, be good at it, because he will throw an interception to you if you force him to make a play, and discipline throughout the defense. We can't overcompensate to one side because Avery's going to rip it to the other side and take it for 40. So I think we saw that against UCF. They had to be very disciplined against UCF, and they did that very well. But that's another week of just discipline from this defense that we're going to need to see. And they're a veteran group, so I think they will find success in that.
You know, you bring up a good point there. I feel like I didn't even write this down, but something that I noticed while watching the film, it feels like they're setting up for one of those play action boots and then it's a toss back to the other side type stuff. I could totally see them. Hey, we're on primetime TV against the bus this week. This is when we're doing something like that. That tight end, we're rolling out, the tight end sneaking across the field, boom, way all the way up. Something like that. I could totally see. Yeah, no, but that's just kind of the overview on their offense. this is where their challenge is to me, is our defense versus their offense. We're going to get into our offense versus their defense, but this is the main matchup right here. If we're watching like the main event, it's Colorado's defense versus Kansas State's offense, I think. I've said it. I think Colorado's defense so far this year has been better than their offense. And I definitely think Kansas State's offense is better than their defense. So without further ado, let's get into their defense, Carter. What most stood out to you, if you have something there watching this one, and then I'll kind of just hop into or I guess what I'll ask you, I'm going to change it up a little bit. What I'll ask you is how to see you take down this defense.
Yeah, I think you touched on it earlier. They're going to look just like North Dakota State. They run that 3-3-5 defense. They're very disciplined. They fly to the ball. They get after you. My biggest thing is you can't turn the ball over. Looking at this game, I think the defense could win CU this game, and I think the offense could lose CU this game. They cannot start slow. They can't have these first drive turnovers and start K-State at the 25 like they did against UCF. That will lose them this game, because the last thing you want is K-State to get up on you early. So I think the biggest thing for this offense is just keeping the turnover at 0. And then you have more playmakers than they have defensive playmakers, and you need to find a way to get the ball in your playmakers' hands. We need to have a big Travis game. I'd like to see them keep establishing the run. But I think it's going to look a lot similar to the NDSU game, and I think our offense will have success. I'm just really keened in on the start of this game and how they'll look then.
Yeah. Yes. The beginning is huge. The beginning is huge in this. How to see you start off this game. If they start pouring it up, even 10-0 is going to be big for CU the rest of this game. And I'm not putting my foot off the pedal or off the gas either. I'm going full throttle. If I get up, we are getting up. That's going to bury them. They don't have that ability to come back. So that's a great point. Some of the notes I have, Carter, was actually, you said it. I didn't feel like they had any one big guy that I'm watching out for. They're more of, okay, everyone's kind of cool. Like, everyone can play. They don't have a superstar on this defense. I see a lot of people hyping up that defensive lineman. I didn't, like, yes, the production's there. I
think we saw a better edge versus UCF.
Yeah, 51. I don't remember that guy's name, but he was good. That guy was actually really good. I even thought their defensive tackles at UCF were maybe a little better. 2 and 5. They were at least big and tying people up. So yeah, I didn't think that. A stat I was looking at, Carter, tell me what you think about this. They're getting to the quarterback efficiently like this season. They have a lot of guys, but I went by every single player and I was looking up their pass rush win rate, and all of them weren't good, which tells me the only way they're getting pressure is when they're blitzing. That's what that tells me. And I was listening to some of these Kansas State analysts today, bro. If you're listening to this Kansas State analyst, some of you guys just don't know what the hell you're talking about sometimes, because they're talking about, you know how we beat this Colorado team? It's getting pressure on Shedeur. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Every team says that. I agree. Yes, that's with every quarterback in the entire world. Yes, but continue. And then it's like, so we got to blitz. And I'm like, that's the worst idea you can do. So you want to put those corners one-on-one with our wide receivers. You want no help with that. The way teams have been giving our offense trouble, newsflash, and they're going to do the same thing. It's because they're beating our offensive linemen with 4. That's how they're doing it. It's not that teams are throwing these exotic blitzes at us and, hey, Lejante, you get one-on-one. That's the worst idea I ever heard. Seriously, it's terrible. All of you guys should be fired. Like, it's terrible. I hate that take so much. I was listening to it. I was like, what are you talking about? So, yeah, I just had to throw that out there because it was irritating me the whole day. I listened to like 3 of their shows, and all of them said that.
Yeah, you don't even have to watch CU to know that's a bad take too. You just go on ESPN and look at the Shador's best plays, and that's what it's going to be. The biggest difference with Shador is pressuring him is like half the battle, but the biggest thing about Shador is getting him to the ground.
Yeah.
Shador will to make a spin move on you and extend this play 8 more seconds. And with the receiving core that we have, extending the play that long is going to be far enough. We've seen it how many times where it looks like Shador is almost sacked and he is extending the play and boom, finds Travis Hunter who ran across the field 4 times. So you got to be able to bring Shador down, and you're exactly right. Blitzing him is the worst idea. Like, oh, all you guys are coming. I got Travis over here, LeJounte right here, and Jimmy right here. All right, let's see this. It's just, I hope they blitz us. That's all I got to say.
Please, God, blitz us. We just, like, CU's going to run some 10 personnel and stuff like that, what they do. If they're, let's say they're blitzing us at a dime or something like that. You're telling me you have 4 corners that are going to be able to defeat the 4 wide receivers on the bus, or even 3 corners on an island? Crazy madness, bro. Like, it's just stupid. I might just chuck that shit up and let someone run under it. Like, it's just stupid. It was terrible. Terrible take. How you're going to beat, newsflash, this is how you're going to beat the Colorado Buffaloes. You're going to have to bring 3 or 4, and they're still going to have to disrupt. That's how teams have been giving us trouble. CU's offensive line, while it's getting better, still isn't like an elite level line. Like, they still are getting beat. They're holding up a lot better than they were last year, but I'm not going to overhype it and say they're like just this good offensive line. No, that's still their weak point of their team. And how you ultimately are going to take this team down is getting pressure with 4, and then you still having DBs on the back end to help guard all of these wide receivers while Shador's running for his life because your 4-man rushes to get him home. It's not blitzing it. Yeah, and you mentioned it. They're going to run a lot of the North Dakota State cover 2 type defense. I don't know. If they start doing the 3-2, the other part about this, I'm rambling now, but the part about this is, when I was looking at their pass rush win rate, it had me thinking, are they going to be able to get home doing that 4? Or is Shador just going to have time to sit in the pocket and make throws? Because he's always going to tear you up that way. Yeah, I don't know.
One more thing on that
is their offensive line this next week.
Yeah, what I think Savell Smalls has done a great job in pass protection and run blocking too. And if you don't have a tear on that O line, like, if you bring 3 and Savell Smalls is a true pass blocking, you have double teams for all of them. And if that's the case, I would love that for our offensive line, because Shador, we both know he's a very smart quarterback, very smart at diagnosing defenses. And with the talent we have in the wide receiver room, that would be a big recipe for success.
It'd be huge. It's going to be huge. Kansas State's defense is going to live or die this next game off of how their defensive line performs against our offensive line. That is the matchup, other than their whole offense versus our whole defense. If you're looking on this side of the ball, it's going to come down to our offensive line in pass pro versus their defensive line getting after the quarterback. Who wins that battle? CU's been getting beat on stunts the entire year. Kansas State doesn't run a lot of stunts. I don't think it really matters. I still think Kansas State's going to come out and be like, all right, you've been getting beat on this the entire year. We're going to start throwing that out there. At some point, you'd think that CU's offensive line is going to get better with this, because this is just like a mental thing, a repetition thing. So you'd hope that it's going to just click at one of these games. Yeah, I think that's the matchup of that one right there. Like I said, no one really on this Kansas State defense freaks me out all too much.
Yeah, it's a case of, on one side of the ball, you have a glaring set of star power, but also a glaring set of weakness, versus their defense where it's just a lot of solid. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how the star power combats the weaknesses and how that all works out. But I like CU's offense in this matchup.
Yeah, I do too. So let's get the score predictions. If you guys think you know where we're going, you probably do after listening to all of that. Oh, give me your score prediction, Carter. What do you have there? Give me your little reasoning why, what it boils down to. Let me know.
Yeah, man. So as much as I would like to just go off of past experience, this is a night game in Boulder, which means it's probably going to be close. But I'm going to go the opposite way. I think the staff understands how big of a week this is for the rest of their season to beat a ranked opponent. You're going to be ranked after this. You're coming off a bye. So is K-State. But I mean, I like our experienced quarterback being able to spend 2 weeks watching this defense. And I think this staff also knows how big of a deal this is for recruiting momentum as well. Like if they go out and they stun the world at 8:15 Mountain Time, I mean that is prime time under the lights. So I honestly got them in a blowout. I'm gonna go like 38-20. I think they win by multiple scores. I think they come out and they set the tone just like they did against UCF. We thought it was gonna be a closer game versus UCF. I actually picked UCF to win. So I'm gonna go opposite of that. I think CU comes out and they put their staple on the Big 12 this year in a huge game.
Yeah, this game essentially also, Carter, just kind of, I mean, it'll take Kansas State a lot to get back into that Big 12 championship game. While with CU, this automatically propels them having an undefeated record in the conference. Yeah, so we have similar, but I'm going a little more Kansas State and a little less CU. I'm going 31-24 Colorado in this game. Honestly, I feel good about this one. In the fact that if CU plays up to their talent level, like I'm not guaranteeing that. I just think CU is talented enough to really kind of win this game in the fashion Carter is. It's just whether they do or not. Maybe Kansas State, their D-line, we highlighted it. Their D-line is dominating CU's offensive line. That could happen, right? This is the recipe for them to really close that gap and win the game. And then also on offense, they're just not making mistakes. And they're continuously working their way into 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2 situations that they're just continuing to get first downs on and keeping CU's offense off the field. I just don't know. Like, the margin for victory in that way is so small. You're asking your team not to make mistakes. Whereas CU has this much bigger window of, hey, I can make mistakes and I have Shiloh Sanders and Travis Hunter that can convert me a 3rd and 15. Like once a game, that could happen. They're just ways of winning is a lot bigger than I think Kansas State's is. So that's why I'm saying it. Another interesting stat, I think Kleiman's 1-4 out there at Kansas State off the bye. So that's something to keep in mind.
They've struggled on the road too so far this year.
Very big.
That's another thing too.
Yeah. So yeah, 31-24. That's what I have this one. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. Carter and I are going to be back every single Thursday. Carter, you're doing a post game with David, correct?
Yeah, I'm doing a post game at probably like midnight. But yeah, me and David are.
I didn't even think about it.
We're on for the ride. It's gonna be a fun one. So hopefully I'm thrilled at midnight and not miserable at midnight. But me and David are doing.
That's gonna be the worst post game ever if they lose. You're gonna be sitting there at 1 a.m. talking about it.
I'm gonna be like.
That's gonna be a shitty show. Anyways, guys, make sure you guys are tuning into that. You're probably gonna want to be up because we're gonna be so hyped. I don't even see the other option anymore. I just left my mind. But until next time, go Buffs.
Go Buffs.